really hits home for me is when he said, rise without earning it. This is so important. You have to earn your ascension. And what that means when you do get all of these insights, you have to come back into your life and act on it. How are you treating the people around you? How are you treating yourself? What exactly are you thinking? What are you doing? All these things are important components of being on the ascension path.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really feel like psychedelics give a North Star, and that's what it is. It's a North Star, a place that helps point you in that direction, but it's not a place that, it is a place you have to earn to get there. It's a journey, right? And no one's going to come out of this enlightened. No one's going to come out of a journey, and everything fades over time. So unless you've really integrated it and embodied it, the memories from a journey will either not even come with you afterwards or quickly fade. So interesting perspective.
Sure, and it also shows you what you could be and who you could be in your higher level of consciousness if you did the work. But the hard part is maintaining that.
Welcome to another edition of Psychedelic Sages, where we provide intuitive insights, truth bust, and service watchdogs and guides for topics around spiritual medicines, more commonly referred to as psychedelics.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Psychedelic Sages. I'm Beth Bell.
I'm Stephanie Salt.
And today we're going to review a video of Sadhguru talking about ayahuasca. So it'll be interesting to see what a guru actually has to say about these spiritual medicines and any insights or blessings or perhaps negative comments that they may have in regards to it. So let's take a listen.
These systems were mainly designed for a complete thorough cleanup. Whatever the unpronounceable South American stuff, or with an LSD, or a drug, or whatever else. You should simply sit with your eyes closed, don't mess with your mind, you will become millionfold of ayahuasca. Now, you need to understand what the tribal societies did had a multi-purpose intention. When it's not just in South America, there are such things in India also, which are of maybe not of the same species of plants but are of different nature, that a full cleanup happens. This was very essential for people who lived in forests, because if you live in nature, suppose you go out and live in a jungle, the number of parasites which live in your body will multiply. The variety and the number will multiply manifold. Recently, there is a study which has been published which says there is a particular kind of parasite which is mainly present in the cat's excrement. If you played around with the cats and cat's excrement was around you, it is very much possible that this parasite is within you. This is not the only one. If you really put this under the scanner, there are many parasites, many of them. So once you live in nature, exposed to natural elements, the number of parasites which will reside in the body will greatly be enhanced. Some parasites could be dangerous to life, some parasites could cause damage to the system, but most others don't. They subsist on you and they also contribute something, so the body doesn't fight them too much and it goes on, the affair goes on without you knowing about it. That's okay. But over a period of time, as their numbers increase, they have to be cleaned up. So these systems were mainly designed for a complete thorough cleanup. In India, we have various methods where not always with hallucinogenic substances, but there are also concoctions with hallucinogenic things where it's complete purging, because in India we don't believe in bringing it back.
So I thought I'd pause it there for a minute because he brings up a really interesting topic of parasites and being in the jungle. Have you thought about it from that perspective in the past?
Not necessarily with parasites, but I know other, well, I guess, yeah, because there's psychic parasites. There's worms and that type of thing that can cause all kind of things within the body. So when we talk about total cleansing, I totally understand what he's saying. When you're taking these substances, you're purging the whole body. So the fact that he now is focusing in on parasites, I think, is a very different dimension of what the medicinal value of the medicines, the psychedelic medicines.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't ever thought about parasites specifically, but it really resonates for me because I've struggled with parasites a lot, living in Asia for 5.5 years. I mean, 7.5 years total, actually, and traveling to a lot of different countries. I really struggled with that, and it really brought my focus to understanding the microbiome in my gut, right? And so when we start thinking about even psilocybin mushrooms, that really gets us into the mycelium network. And I've done a lot of work connecting the mycelium network with my microbiome in my gut so that we can have a healthy balance and still live with some of this, because we're not ever going to eliminate all these parasites, but there are some parasites that are not good for us, and we want to have the ones that are healthy, right? I mean, we talk about probiotics all the time, so it's not a new concept, but I hadn't thought about cleaning them up in that way. But with that said, I did, when I had my first San Pedro journey, I cleaned up a very, very difficult bacteria that usually takes like four different antibiotics to take care of, and my test came back negative after the San Pedro, so definitely cleared me out in that sense. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's so important that we understand what he's saying. It's all about the preparation, which is what we've been talking about a lot on the show. That doesn't happen when you just go to where.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are preparing your body, and part of that is cleaning out your intestinal tract so that the medicines have a better and more thorough effect.
Yeah. And I find, to your point, that going into a ceremony, having the diet that's really conducive to reducing some of the negative bacteria. In fact, one time I had a ceremony when I was actually quite backed up, and I had a completely different experience, which I won't go into now because I want to hear more about what Sadhguru wants to tell us. But yeah, very interesting to take it from a parasitic standpoint and cleaning out the system, especially during more jungle time. So let's see what else he has to say.
Want to pump it down. So there are systems with which if you drink water after 2 hours, just pure water will come out. To that extent, your entire alimentary canal is just cleaned up thoroughly. This is something that was regularly done to all of us when we were growing up. Once a month, everybody has to go through total purging. Without that, they never believed there is going to be health, because this was one way of handling any kind of parasite that may grow. Not all parasites are in the form of worms or tapeworms or roundworms or whatever. There are parasites that you cannot see. They're micro in nature. You cannot see them, but they exist. But to clean them up, and the maximum number of parasites normally reside in your digestive tract. And the blood parasites and the cellular parasites are there, but there is a way to impact them. These are all relatives. The parasites need an ecosystem of their own. If you completely remove the parasite presence in your digestive tract, the other parasites generally cannot subsist, except a few. Others cannot subsist because they need an ecosystem of their own kind. So to destroy that ecosystem periodically was a part of the tribal life, otherwise people would slowly get sick or dull and die early. All these things used to happen. Along with that, there is also a cleansing of emotional and psychological backlog that is building up within the human being. But once you use outside chemicals or substances to do these things, in some way you will get addicted to it, or in some way you will become limited to that process. But if anybody believes they will attain to consciousness by purging their digestive tract, they need a different kind of treatment.
So there was a couple of things there. I really like how he was saying that at the end. We've talked about that in other videos, I think, where a lot of people are wanting to go out there and not doing the integrative work here to actually make the changes. So I think that point's really relevant. But he also talked about India and how they, they just are purging through their intestinal system and out that way. And of course, the Panchakarma cleanses are great, where they're taking from a cellular level and bringing all those toxins out. So yeah, I thought that was also really interesting.
I love this. This is so pertinent to what we've been talking about on the show. When I was little, my grandmother was a healer, and she would have us do exactly what he said. Once a month, we had our cod liver oil. It was horrible, but we were never sick as children because it completely cleaned out the system. And we've forgotten that. We've forgotten how to really purge on a daily level. Everybody would do it every now and then, in our modern society would do colonics and things like that, but not on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I love it because this is what we're talking about. This is all about the preparation for the ingestion of the medicine, is to clean all that out so that it's ready. Okay, that's a physical cleansing, and he talked about the emotional, and then here comes the spiritual cleansing. So you're doing it really on multi-dimensional levels when you engage in this process.
Yeah. And I think we've just really gotten away from our gut health, and just, a lot of it's been numbed with a lot of the pesticides and different environmental factors that have created, a lot of problems for us. So I wasn't really expecting to be talking about parasites and ayahuasca, but it's great that we are. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Okay. Yes, it definitely cleanses the system. It makes certain things possible. People use hallucinogenic ways of accessing certain dimensions, which are largely occult in nature. This is the reason why both in North America and South America, that occult evolved in a big way, because they used other kinds of aids to make themselves available to certain possibilities. I want you to understand, just finding a little space in the chaos of your intellect, either with whatever the unpronounceable South American stuff, or with an LSD or a drug or whatever else, is only a temporary excess. And most of the time, this may leave you completely debilitated, because one excess of a heightened experience, and after that back on the ground, you will be broken. This is just like you were earning, let's say $10 million a year, and you are used to spending $10 million a year. Suddenly, next year you got only $1 million. You will be broken because you have $1 million. Whole lot of people, it's their dream to have that $1 million. So, if you rise without earning it, by breaking the mind with chemicals, somehow you rose to some experience and then you came down, then you will see you will be far more miserable than ever before. I told them in India, people were complaining, Sadhguru, you're doing Bhava Spandanas only in America, you're not doing in India, you must do at least one in India. Then I said, for all of you who already done the BSP, minimum 3 times, I will give you one super BSP. Only thing is, for every participant, we need 3 volunteers. Because you need to carry a bucket for each one of them, because they will puke, I hope they won't do the other thing. And they will flip, you have to carry them to their lunch, they won't know how to eat, you have to feed them. You'll have… This is what is happening in your South American treatment, okay? You won't know how to do anything, you're like all over, somebody has to put water in your mouth, somebody has to take you to the toilet, otherwise you'll do it everywhere. We can do a super BSP like that without any herb, without any chemical. We can tweak that dimension of you, which is a huge purging on all levels. But don't mistake this for consciousness. Yes, it gives you a certain relief, but it doesn't take you to any place.
I like what he has to say. Thoughts?
Sadhguru, I love you, because this is what we've been saying. What really hits home for me is when he said, rise without earning it. This is so important. You have to earn your ascension. And what that means, when you do get all of these insights, you have to come back into your life and act on it. How are you treating the people around you? How are you treating yourself? What exactly are you thinking? What are you doing? All these things are important components of being on the ascension path. But when you're initiated to these processes, there is a shaman that really can gauge where you are in the process. And that's the beauty of having like a guru or a facilitator that understands the process. So I think what he's saying, and I love what he said, you've got to earn it. Chop wood, carry water. when you're on that path, and it's the ancient wisdom that has always said that the work continues before, during, and after this whole process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really feel like psychedelics give a North Star, and that's what it is. It's a North Star, a place that helps point you in that direction, but it's not a place that, it is a place you have to earn to get there. It's a journey, right? And no one's going to come out of this enlightened. No one's going to come out of a journey, and everything fades over time. So unless you've really integrated it and embodied it, the memories from a journey will either not even come with you afterwards or quickly fade. So interesting perspective.
Sure. And it also shows you what you could be and who you could be in your higher level of consciousness if you did the work. But the hard part is maintaining that equilibrium, that alignment that you get into. And that's why people keep doing it over and over and over, because they want to a period of a sense of stasis in their life so that they can maintain that level of consciousness.
Well,
that takes work.
It does. And I think if you really understand the purpose behind them, you understand how much of that work is, and then you're not called to do this over and over and over and over. That's the mind starting to come in and play some trickery on you. There isn't an addictive type, it's not addictive, psychedelics, but your mind is always going to make everything addictive. Doesn't matter if it's, Krispy Kreme donuts or a Netflix episode, right? So it's all about the mind and separating from the mind and doing the work. So let's hear what else he has to say.
First of all, it's not a shortcut. It's a very long, drawn-out process of endless puking and getting your intestines out, literally. I'm talking about a shortcut. If you simply sit here with your eyes closed, don't mess with your mind, you will become millionfold of ayahuasca, okay? You should just learn how not to mess with your mind, that's all. So somebody wants to put a chemical and beat your mind down totally and give you some experience. So please understand, you're walking on the street, if you take a stick and hit you on the head, that also will give you experiences, do you know? No, I'm not saying just of pain. People go through various levels of hallucinations when they're unconscious. Some people have pleasant experiences, some people have very unpleasant experiences. The same happens with this South American treatment also. Some people have such a bad experience that they never again want to go there, some people like it. So even if you bang your head on the wall, it can happen, because all it needs is that you're out of your memory sphere, that's all. You're still conscious, but you're out of the memory sphere, you will explode.
I wanted to pause it because I really like how he says you're out of your memories sphere, right? So it is quieting the mind. And he makes a good point. Look, if we could all sit in meditation and completely get our mind to sit aside, that would be great. So I think there's a little bit, I agree with what he's saying, but yet not everyone has that capability yet to really sit and quiet the mind and separate the mind. So if that was easier for everyone, then I think it would be a fair statement. But I think that, there's a lot of people that don't have that ability.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think the state that you get into with the psychedelic gives you a glimpse of what it's like to enter the higher levels of consciousness, but it doesn't allow you necessarily to stay there. And I think what he's saying is the meditative process does. It allows you to stay there at will. And that's the control that you want. That is the real, that's what you're really striving for. If you really want to master yourself, is to be able to put yourself into that state at will. And that's what he's talking about, going into meditation, staying into meditation, and really doing the work so that you do have absolute control over your mind and thinking processes.
Yeah, no, and I fully agree with that. I just know how difficult it was for me years ago to actually sit. I would sit for just try 15 minutes, but in those 15 minutes, I felt like, oh my God, I'm not going to get that 15 minutes back. And there were so many things I could have gotten done. And it wasn't until the flowers really pulled me in that I was able to really dive into that. It's really sometimes difficult for people to understand, which is, I think, goes back to what we've already said, which is having that North Star, having that experience that allows you to feel it in a different way, because that is that's the North Star to hit, is to be able to bring that in every day, as you said, and practice quieting the mind with your free will. Yeah.
Oh, true, Beth. Knowing thyself is a huge process. It's difficult. That mind is not going to let you just do it. You really have to want that. And it's not an easy process, but this is why psychedelics, I think, can really help, because it can show you the light, but then you've got to go through the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think he's got more.
So how to separate you from your memory? Shall we do it with chemicals or shall we do it with awareness is the only choice we have. Either we can do it with devotion or intensity of emotion or energy or awareness, we can do this. Now, chemicals, if we use also, people have used LSD and felt fantastic. Okay, they vouch by that. You are a bit too late. I come from a time when everybody around me was on it, all right? But I was on something else, which all of them wanted. Because they knew they go up and they go down, I'm always like this. So the question is just this: what needs to happen from inside if you pull it out from outside? Do you believe there will be no consequences? Hello? See, we can do one thing. You eat food, it'll take time to digest this. So we pull out your stomach bag and do digestion will happen quickly and put it back. So good trick. But you think it will not have any consequence? This is all you're trying to do. So you can see, people are always trying to weave a philosophy around those things about which they're compulsive. You want to promote your compulsiveness as consciousness. That's the whole problem. Everybody has a philosophy. You ask a drunkard and see why he is drinking. He has a very profound philosophy as to why he is a drunkard. Yes or no? Even ask a thief why he is a thief. He has his own philosophy as to why he is a thief. Everybody, when they want to do their nonsense, they have a philosophy. There is a difference between philosophy, there is a difference between physical dimensions of life. Chemistry is just a physical dimension in a certain way, and there is a big difference between all those things and becoming awakened. It's a completely different thing.
I love it. I think his words of wisdom are perfect.
I absolutely think this is really, I'm so glad we did this episode because it's so important what he's saying. If you've reached this beautiful stasis of consciousness, you'll be able to deal with everything, all the crap from your family, all the crap that you encounter every day, and you won't. But if you haven't, you can't go and do an ayahuasca journey. But if you've achieved that awareness, that is going to serve you every single day. And you will see it in your business. You will see it in your personal relationships. You will see it in being able to manifest love relationships, abundance and all different types of things if you have done the work and you are in that beautiful state of unconditional love and understanding. And that's what he's talking about. That's what we're trying to get to. But the psychedelics don't keep you there. And I think you've still got to do the work.
I agree. And I'll just add one more thing about that I feel like psychedelics, especially plant-based medicines, it's all about feeling called to it. It isn't a quick fix. It's not for everyone. As we've said before, it was really only something that the shamans did. But it is something we can do, but not with regularity. And it's a special sacred time. And so use with discernment and only if you're called, definitely not because a friend has said that you should do it. All right.
Yeah, it's just part of an initiation. If you're called to the initiation, absolutely do it. But if you're not, it may not be the most pleasant experience. It may not be what really is going to help you move to the next level. So you have to really be in tune with the I within yourself, and you'll know if it's for you. Yeah, I think we have to understand that you couldn't just do these medicines before. You had to be called to the initiation process in order to even be invited to do the medicines, because it is sacred. We have to keep that in mind. So I love what he said. I think it's really, really important.
I do too. All right, let's end it right there. We'll see you next time on Psychedelic Sages. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. You can get more in-depth information on our Patreon site, Psychedelic Sages.